Imagine this for a moment. The person who once seemed cold, distant, and unreachable suddenly begins to reveal cracks in their armor. They don't say it out loud. They don't come right out and admit it. But deep down in their silence, in their hidden actions, there is a burning truth. They miss you. And not just a little. They miss you in ways that shake their very foundation. You see, people with avoidant attachment are often misunderstood. They're not heartless. They're not unfeeling. What they are is terrified. Terrified of closeness, terrified of losing themselves, terrified of being hurt again. And so they hide. But here's the breakthrough truth. When an avoidant misses you deeply, their mask slips. They can't help it. And today, I'm going to show you 7 powerful signs they secretly reveal, so you'll never again doubt what's really going on beneath the surface. When an avoidant misses you, they rarely make a grand entrance. You won't see them showing up at your door with flowers, pouring out their emotions, or making bold declarations. That's not how they operate. Their entire nervous system is wired to resist vulnerability, to pull back instead of rushing forward. But when they miss you deeply, something fascinating begins to happen. They can't quite stay away. They start to reappear, but not in the dramatic ways most people expect. They do it in subtle, almost invisible ways that if you're not paying attention, you might dismiss as coincidence. Maybe it starts with a like on one of your posts. Just one, and then nothing. Maybe they watch your story but never comment. Maybe they send you a text that seems completely casual. Hey, did you see that new series? Or what was the name of that restaurant again? On the surface, it feels small, even meaningless. But beneath that small action is a massive, unspoken truth. They're testing the waters. They want to see if the bridge is still standing. They want to know if you'll notice, if you'll respond, if they can safely step just a little closer without risking rejection. Avoidants don't leap, they inch. They don't chase. You'll see them circle back slowly, cautiously, almost like someone dipping a toe in freezing water before diving in. That little reappearance is not random. It's their way of saying, I still think about you. I still feel your absence. I can't cut you out the way I thought I could. And here's the thing, the subtleness of their action actually makes it more powerful. Because for them, even pressing that like button, even sending that one-word text is a mountain they had to climb internally. It's not casual, it's courage. Think about it. These are people who pride themselves on being independent, untouchable, self-sufficient. They build walls so high that not even they can always see over them. And yet, when you notice them slipping back into your world in these quiet little ways, it means you've shaken something deep inside of them. They can't ignore you. They can't fully let go. They've tried, but the absence is louder than the silence they cling to. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice a pattern. The timing of these subtle reappearances often comes when they're feeling the ache of missing you most. Late at night when the distractions fade, or during milestones when your absence feels sharp. They might not ever say, I miss you, but their behavior betrays them. They wouldn't show up at all, even in the smallest ways, if you weren't still lodged in their heart. So that tiny action, the text, the accidental reach out, isn't small. It's everything. It's the first crack in the armor, the first thread pulled in the tightly woven fabric of their avoidance. It's the sign that, no matter how hard they fight it, missing you has pulled them back into your orbit. When an avoidant misses you, one of the first things you'll notice is a subtle shift in the way they speak to you. Their guard, the one that usually feels like an impenetrable fortress, begins to soften. And it won't be obvious at first. You won't hear them pouring out their heart in some cinematic confession. No, with avoidance, the truth comes out in fragments, in tiny cracks of vulnerability that slip through when they least expect it. The tone of their voice changes. The sharp, clipped sentences they used to use suddenly feel a little warmer. The conversations that were once all surface, work, logistics, practical updates, start to include glimpses of something deeper. It might come in the form of them sharing a small personal detail, something they normally keep locked away. Maybe they tell you about a struggle at work, or a challenge with a friend, or even a memory from their childhood that you've never heard before. At first, you may not realize how significant this is, but for an avoidant, this is monumental. Vulnerability for them is not natural, it's risky. Every time they reveal even a sliver of their inner world, it's a sign that their emotional defenses are loosening, that they trust you enough to let you peek behind the curtain. And here's the key: that softening doesn't just happen with anyone. It doesn't happen with casual acquaintances or people they don't care about. It happens with the people who matter most, with the ones who hold a place in their heart. When they miss you, that longing pushes them to reconnect. They may not say, "I've been thinking about you every day," but they'll show it through the way their communication shifts from mechanical to meaningful. Even in the smallest moments, you can feel it. A message that includes a thoughtful question instead of a quick reply. A phone call that lasts longer than you expected. A conversation where they don't seem in such a rush to escape. That's not random. That's not just them being polite. That's them letting you in, inch by inch, because they miss the connection they had with you. Think about how powerful that is. For someone who has spent their whole life trying to be untouchable, trying to appear strong and self-contained, the act of opening up, even slightly, is not weakness. It's courage. It's their way of saying, "You're safe, you matter, I want you close, even if I don't know how to say it outright." And when you see that guard soften, when you hear the change in their voice, don't dismiss it as small talk. Recognize it for what it truly is: the hidden language of longing, the quiet confession of someone who misses you more than they can bear to admit. When an avoidant misses you, they often can't bring themselves to say it directly. The words, "I miss you," feel too raw, too vulnerable, too exposing. To them, it's like standing on the edge of a cliff without a safety net. So instead, they communicate their longing in a more indirect way. They check in with you, but not in the way most people would. They do it through questions that sound casual, even ordinary, but underneath carry an emotional weight. They might ask how you've been sleeping lately, or if you're eating well, or how work is going. It sounds like simple curiosity, but it's not. It's their way of reaching across the silence to make sure you're okay, because even if they won't admit it out loud, they still care deeply. You see, avoidants are masters of disguising their intentions. On the surface, their questions may appear neutral, but if you listen closely, there's always a thread of emotional concern woven in. "How's your family doing?" really means, "I'm worried about you and the people you love." "Did you ever fix that thing you were stressed about?" really means, "I've been thinking about you even when I pretended I wasn't." These subtle check-ins are their way of maintaining a connection without having to face the vulnerability of stating their feelings outright. What makes this so powerful is the very fact that avoidants usually avoid emotional entanglement. They pull back, they detach, they put distance between themselves and others. So when they go against their own instinct and reach out to you, even under the guise of casual conversation, it signals something profound. It means the distance has become unbearable. It means your absence is loud enough that they feel compelled to bridge the gap in the safest way they know how, by checking in indirectly. And here's what you must understand: for an avoidant, even that small act is enormous. To them, it's not just a casual text, it's a calculated risk. They fear rejection. They fear opening a door they're not sure will stay open. But when they miss you deeply, the need to know you're okay outweighs that fear. That is why these check-ins matter. They're not just filler words or random questions. They're coded messages, quiet attempts to keep the thread between you alive. So the next time an avoidant reaches out with what looks like a simple, ordinary question, don't overlook it. Hidden inside is the unspoken truth. "I may not know how to say this the way others do, but I still care. I still think of you. And even though I can't bring myself to confess it, missing you has left me no choice but to reach for you, even if only in disguise." When an avoidant misses you, they may never come right out and say, "I need to see you." That level of direct vulnerability feels impossible for them. But here's what they will do. They'll create reasons, opportunities, even excuses to cross your path. And if you're not paying attention, you might chalk it up to coincidence. You might think, "Oh, what a surprise running into them here." But understand this: avoidants are not as random as they appear. When they miss you, life has a funny way of suddenly arranging itself so they show up in your world again. It may start with them frequenting the places they know you go. The cafe you once mentioned, the gym you attend, the friend group you're connected to. Maybe they suddenly remembered they had to be in your neighborhood for something, and what do you know? You're there too. Or maybe they send you a text asking about a book, a movie, a mutual contact, anything that gives them a reason to connect, however small. To someone on the outside, it looks ordinary, but to them it's carefully crafted. It's their way of saying, I wanted to see you. I wanted to feel your presence again. But I can't admit that directly, so I'll hide it inside an excuse. Avoidants are masters at protecting themselves, so they rarely put themselves in a position where rejection is obvious. By creating these accidental encounters, they give themselves an escape hatch. If you're warm and receptive, they can lean in and engage more. If you seem closed off, they can play it off as chance. But beneath that mask of casualness lies a deep longing, one that pulled them out of hiding and closer to you again. Think about what it takes for an avoidant to do this. Their instinct is always to pull away, to retreat into safety, to keep their distance. So for them to go against that instinct, to place themselves in situations where they might cross your path, is not small, it's huge. It means they've been sitting with that ache of missing you, and it's grown so strong that avoidance no longer feels like enough. Their desire to see you outweighs their fear of exposure, and often if you look closely, you'll notice the pattern. These encounters aren't really accidental. They carry too much timing, too much intention. They happen at the exact moments when the silence has stretched too long, when their heart can't take the distance anymore. That's when you'll see them show up not with open declarations, but with carefully disguised opportunities. And those opportunities speak louder than any words they could ever say, because if they didn't miss you, they wouldn't bother. They wouldn't show up. They wouldn't seek out the places where they know you are. But when they do, it's the clearest sign that you've been on their mind, and that missing you has pulled them back into your orbit, whether they admit it or not. When an avoidant misses you, they don't usually say it in words. Words feel dangerous to them, too vulnerable, too binding. For someone wired to protect themselves from intimacy, the phrase, I miss you, feels like an open wound. So instead of speaking it, they reveal it in what they do. Their actions, quiet and often unnoticed by others, become the loudest declarations of what they're really feeling inside. And this is where you must learn to look closely, because when an avoidant cares, their love is written not in grand gestures, but in subtle, consistent behaviors that prove they can't stay away. You may notice they offer to fix something for you. Maybe they step in to help with a problem you didn't even ask them to solve. It could be something as simple as checking if you got home safely, sending you an article they thought you'd like, or making sure you're taken care of in ways that seem small on the surface. But those small actions are not small at all. For an avoidant, doing is safer than saying. They can put their emotions into motion without having to risk verbal vulnerability. So when they miss you, their actions become the bridge between their fear and their longing. Think about it, an avoidant who has spent years, maybe decades, perfecting the art of emotional distance, doesn't offer their energy lightly. They don't go out of their way for just anyone. If they're showing up, helping, checking in through actions, it means they are silently investing in you. It's their coded language. It's their way of whispering, you matter to me. I still need you close, without having to expose themselves to the fear of rejection that comes with saying those words out loud. And what makes this so powerful is the fact that their behavior often contradicts their supposed detachment. They may appear cool, even aloof in conversation, but watch what they do when you need them. Do they step in quietly? Do they make your life easier in some way? That's not detachment, that's devotion dressed in disguise. Their love slips out through the cracks of their avoidance, not in proclamations, but in actions that keep you tethered to them. So the next time you find yourself doubting an avoidance feelings because they won't say what you want to hear, shift your focus. Look at what they're doing. Notice the extra effort, the thoughtful gestures, the protective instinct that shows up without invitation. That's the truth. That's the confession they can't put into words. When they miss you, their silence may be loud, but their actions are louder still. And once you learn to recognize that language, you'll never again question whether they care. You'll see it, plain as day, in everything they do. When an avoidant misses you, one of the clearest signs is that their emotional distance begins to shrink. This is a person who has built an identity around being self-contained, untouchable, independent to the point of isolation. Their walls are high, their escape routes are always ready, and their pattern is to retreat the moment things feel too close. But when missing you becomes too heavy, something remarkable happens. That distance they once clung to so fiercely starts to fade. Slowly, quietly, almost imperceptibly at first, they begin to linger where they once would have vanished. They respond more quickly, stay in conversations longer, and open doors that they usually keep locked tight. It may not look dramatic to an outsider, but if you've known the rhythm of an avoidant, you'll feel the difference immediately. Where once they took days to reply, now their response comes in hours. Where once they made excuses to leave early, now they're lingering just a little longer. The gaps between contact begin to shrink. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is what happens when someone who has trained themselves to run finds themselves pulled back by a longing they can't ignore. Think about what that means. For an avoidant, closeness feels dangerous. It triggers alarms inside of them, alarms that tell them to pull away or risk losing control. And yet, when they miss you, they override that instinct, even if just a little. They choose connection over avoidance, proximity over distance. That is no small shift. It's a breakthrough. Because for them, every text they send sooner, every extra moment they give you, every time they fight the urge to disappear, is an act of courage. It's their heart saying, I need you more than I need my walls. And you'll notice, too, that their presence feels different. It's not just about frequency, it's about energy. They're less guarded, more available, more attuned to you. They may ask follow-up questions, stay engaged in conversations, or simply show a willingness to be there without rushing away. This shrinking distance is not casual. It's proof that missing you has softened their resistance. It's evidence that their desire to feel close has begun to outweigh their fear of being consumed. For someone who thrives on space, closing that gap is the truest confession they can give. They won't announce it. They won't declare it. But their behavior changes. The walls that once felt immovable begin to loosen. And in that space, you see the truth. When an avoidant misses you deeply, they cannot maintain the distance forever. They are pulled back not because they want to be vulnerable, but because their heart refuses to let go. When an avoidant misses you, sometimes the loudest signal isn't in what they say or even in what they do. It's in the silence. That silence, which so often feels cold and empty, can actually be the most powerful confession of all. You see, avoidants are experts at retreating into quiet. They withdraw when emotions feel overwhelming. They disappear when closeness feels threatening, and they build their safety inside walls of distance. But when they miss you, that silence changes. It isn't peaceful anymore. It becomes restless, heavy, almost trembling with the weight of everything they're holding back. If you've ever felt that strange tension when an avoidant pulls away, yet somehow still feels present in spirit, that's not your imagination. That's their silence speaking louder than words. It shows up in hesitation, the text they draft but don't send, the call they think about making but never finish dialing, the way they linger in your orbit without fully stepping forward. That pause, that hesitation, is the evidence of a battle raging inside them. On one hand, their fear says, stay silent, stay safe. On the other, their heart screams, reach out because you miss them. That tug of war is written all over their quietness. And here's what makes it so important. Avoidants don't go silent on people they don't care about. Indifference doesn't create restlessness. Indifference doesn't leave drafts unsent or memories replayed in the middle of the night. True indifference is clean, simple, and final. But when their silence feels heavy, when it carries weight, it's because they're fighting the ache of missing you and don't yet know how to cross the bridge back. That silence becomes their language. It's the space where their unspoken truth lives. Look closer and you'll notice the signs hidden in that quiet. The way they hover on your page without interacting. The way they keep connections alive just enough to know how you're doing, even if they don't directly ask. The way they show up in energy, if not in words. All of this is their silence trying to confess what their voice is too afraid to reveal. And though they may not articulate it, what they're really saying in that quiet is, you matter to me. I miss you more than I know how to admit. I don't know how to bridge the gap, but I can't fully let go either. So when you're faced with an avoidant silence, don't always assume it's emptiness. Sometimes that silence is loaded. Sometimes it is the rawest proof of all, that missing you has stirred them so deeply, words have failed, but their presence, their energy, their restless quietness keeps telling the truth. You are still in their heart, even when their lips cannot say it. And so, when you step back and see the full picture, it becomes undeniable. Avoidants are not cold, heartless, or incapable of love. They are human beings with protective layers, with scars that taught them to build walls instead of bridges. But when they miss you deeply, those walls begin to crack. They may not confess it outright, but their actions, their subtle reappearances, their softened words, their disguised check-ins, their hidden longing, all point to one unshakable truth: you mattered to them in ways they cannot erase. You left a mark that their avoidance cannot cover, no matter how hard they try. Think about how powerful that is. These are people who spend their lives fighting connection, who fear closeness more than almost anything else, and yet your presence disrupted that cycle. You touched them deeply enough that even their avoidance couldn't hold. That is not weakness. That is not a fluke. That is proof of impact. It means you are unforgettable to them, and whether they speak it or not, their entire behavior shifts under the weight of missing you. That shift is a language in itself, a silent love letter written in actions, energy, and the space between words. But here's the deeper message: the signs you've learned are not just about recognizing an avoidance feelings. They're about reclaiming your own power. Too often, people doubt themselves when faced with avoidance. They wonder, did I matter? Was it real? Did they ever care? The truth is, yes, you mattered. The evidence is in every reappearance, every softened word, every disguised question, every shrinking distance, every restless silence. You were significant enough to break through defenses designed to keep everyone out. That is your validation. That is your proof. And I want you to hold onto this truth. You don't need someone's verbal confession to know your worth. You don't need loud declarations to confirm you were loved. Sometimes love is whispered in actions. Sometimes it's hidden in silence. Sometimes it's shown in the smallest, most indirect ways. When an avoidant misses you, they may never frame it in the words you long to hear, but their heart reveals it anyway. And if you look with awareness, you'll see it clearly. You'll feel it unmistakably. Now, the question becomes, what do you do with this knowledge? Do you wait for them to grow into their vulnerability? Do you meet them halfway? Or do you take this understanding and simply let it remind you of your value? The choice is always yours. But whichever path you take, remember this: their inability to speak does not erase your impact. Their silence does not negate your significance. Their fear does not diminish the love they still carry for you. You hold the power to interpret their truth without doubting your worth. So let this be your takeaway: when an avoidant misses you deeply, you don't need to search for proof. It's already there. It's hidden in their subtle presence, their softened defenses, their disguised questions, their shrinking distance, their quiet confessions. And if you can learn to recognize those signs, you'll never again mistake their silence for indifference. You'll know with absolute certainty that you are unforgettable to them. And that truth, whether it leads to reconciliation or closure, is fuel. Fuel to remind you that you are worthy of love, capable of leaving a lasting impact, and powerful enough to be missed by even the most unreachable hearts. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. If this message spoke to your heart, remember, it's not by accident that you found it. Take these insights with you, reflect on them, and let them guide you toward the love, healing, and growth you deserve. Your support means the world to me, and every view, every comment, every like reminds me that we're building something powerful together, a community that chooses growth over fear and connection over silence. If you found value here, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because the truth is, transformation multiplies when we share it. Until next time, take care of yourself, honor your journey, and never forget you are stronger, braver, and more loved than you realize. Thank you again for being here. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.